The daily struggle to stay out of debt just got harder. In Bradford, a city with some of the highest levels of deprivation, residents have been hit with the largest council tax rise in the country.
I think I will struggle this much, but I have to pay it. I don't have a choice, but I know it's going to be a bit of a burden, actually.
You have to manage, don't you? But I don't think it's very fair for the services that we get.
The problem with council tax going up by so much, it affects everything. I'm a pensioner, they're taking the pensioners' discount off me, and I'm up to by 10%. How much more do they want?
Come and be part of the campaign to fight back against...
On streets across the country, people are saying enough is enough. Energy bills are up on average by over £100 a year, compounded by increases in water, car tax, TV licence and broadband. Reagan Furness is a single mum and full-time carer for her daughter. Already reliant on food banks, she feels there is nothing else she can cut.
We've borrowed, we've begged, I've just not stolen yet, so my concern is that this is now going to push families like mine into survival mode. What am I going to take from my children? What can I take from the home in order to give them energy companies that make billions in profit just to pay my bills?
And now the council wants more of her money. In several areas, local authorities have permission to raise bills beyond the tax cap of 4.99%. Trafford, Birmingham and Somerset are increasing council tax by almost 7.5%. In Newham and Windsor and Maidenhead, it's rising to just under 9%. And in Bradford, it's even higher, a hike of almost 10%. What angers people here is that this increase is not to improve or widen council services. It is instead to get them out of the red. Here, 20 pence in every pound will go towards paying off council debts, while personal debts for many will become even harder to avoid. Rachel Townsend, ITV News, Bradford.
Well, it is not just households feeling the pinch this month. Businesses face a significant increase in government-imposed costs, and they're warning that that's likely to be passed on to consumers. They must pay for increases in the national living wage, the national minimum wage, business rates and a rise in national insurance contributions. Our business editor Joel Hills heard what the impact could be on them and on us.
An increase in the minimum wage means a pay rise for Annette Coleman, one she says will make a difference for her family. Pay has been rising faster than inflation for almost 2 years, but Annette isn't feeling better off yet.
It's still food, it's the gas, electricity, it's just ongoing, it's just continual. Every other month you're getting another letter come from another utilities company.
Annette works for Monsoon. The Chancellor's decision to increase the minimum wage and national insurance from this month will cost the company an extra £3 million this year. The chief executive says he's responding by freezing recruitment, postponing new store openings and putting up his prices.
It's a lot of money. It's not a temporary setback, right? I think this is something that we're going to have to work hard to afford, and that is going to mean things like price increases that we would much rather not do.
Higher national insurance makes it more expensive to employ people, and different businesses are responding in different ways.
We used to have 5 tills along here. We've now replaced them with these kiosks, as you say. So really, we've replaced 3 to 4 members of staff.
Hospitality UK represents pubs, bars, restaurants and hotels, which collectively employ more than 3 million people in the UK. 1 in 4 says they have no cash savings left. 1 in 3 says they're either loss-making or breaking even.
For many of our businesses across hospitality, this is existential. Insolvencies are sadly going to be inevitable. Many businesses are struggling to cope as it is. If you couple these tax increases, put simply, the money coming through the front door is not enough to cover the costs and return a profit.
Saddling businesses with extra costs isn't the best way of kick-starting economic growth, but the government says it found itself in a position where it needed to raise revenue in order to revive public services and stabilise the country's finances. Joel Hills, ITV News.
Well, adding to the financial pressure is Donald Trump and his global trade war. Tomorrow, the US president will impose new tariffs on imports, and that's almost certain to impact the UK economy. Our political correspondent, Shihab Khan, is in Westminster. Shihab, the government is bracing itself, isn't it, for what Mr. Trump is calling Liberation Day?
Yeah, the US president hasn't exactly shied away from talking about how great he thinks tariffs are and how beneficial they are for the US economy. But initially, British politicians had been hopeful that we could get an exemption. It doesn't look like that's going to happen. They are, as you say, braced for what could be coming in the next couple of days or so. The fear is that it's going to impact our economy quite hard. The Office for Budget Responsibility, the government's independent forecasters, has looked at how much of an impact it could have. And in the worst case scenario, that's the one where these tariffs come in, which would make it more expensive for British businesses to sell to the United States. And then if we were to retaliate, that's the worst case scenario, we could see the economy shrink by about 1%. That is quite significant. And the reason why that's so significant is that the OBR says it would wipe out the Chancellor's fiscal headroom. That's that bit of leeway the Chancellor has to either cut taxes or increase spending. In that scenario, you would expect, would want to restore that headroom, and it could mean that we see either more tax rises or more spending cuts to come. The government thinks that the best way to get around this is to get a free trade agreement with the United States sorted. Today, the Prime Minister was saying that those talks were in the final stages, but at the moment, there's no time frame for how long it could take to finalise that agreement.